Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, Fabulites. I have got questions for you. What opens with Sheree literally talking about doors, talking about literal doors, and what closes with Sheree talking about closing the figurative door on even the possibility that Tyrone is not the her soulmate? If you guessed last night's episode of Real Housewives of Atlanta, you're correct. Thank you so much for clicking on the video and sticking around to see how we get from opening to closing. I'm Angela, and the channel is Be Fabulous You. So we got Sheree at a home decorating type business where you get, doors and things like that for wine cellars in your cellar, in your basement area. And she's, finishing up her basement. She says that once her house is finished, that she'll have parties, and more parties, and that the women last year went downstairs and the basement wasn't even finished yet, but it's gonna be finished. So Portia joins in on the shopping excursion, and Sheree, they looking at doors, and Sheree shows Portia the price on one of the doors. I didn't really see how much it was, but Portia says, "Dang girl, if you got the coins, spend it." So, okay, we guess it was an expensive door. So we see Cynthia being visited by Candy at home. And she has a wall of crosses because she's trying to keep the spiritual vibration high. And then they're in the basement, and then Kenya ends up joining, and they ask Kenya about the funeral. And then we have a back and forth between Cynthia, Candy, and Kenya, and Sheree and Portia. So then we're back at the door shop with Portia and Sheree, and they talking about the trip, and have you checked in on Cynthia? Portia is asking. It's so sad that she had to find out about Kenya's wedding online with the rest of us. I don't know if it's so sad or not. I don't really know the real nature of their relationship with their colleagues. I mean, it's a lot of stuff you find out about your colleagues. But anyway, it's so sad to Portia. And then we have Cynthia, and she's confronting Kenya about that very issue, about that and not having met Kenya's Mr. Daly. And Cynthia says that I wish that I could have. I wish that I could have. Hold on a second. What is this? Selfie was the word. I wish I could have said I have. When they asked if you met her boyfriend or husband, I could have said yes, I have met her husband, and here's a selfie of us together. But I haven't met him, and so I couldn't do that. And Kenya is like, you'll get your receipts, girl, don't worry. Then we see Sheree back with Sheree and Portia, and Portia's asking, well, Sheree, are you married? Because I saw that online. And Sheree is like, no, I'm gonna have a wedding, and I'm gonna have it all, and you'll be invited. Because once he gets out, we gonna get married, and you'll be invited. I'm not gonna do a Kenya. Or Portia says, don't do a Kenya. I'm not gonna do a Kenya. Okay. So then we got Cynthia, Candy, and Kenya, and they're gossiping and joking about Sheree and Tyrone, and the online story of their marriage, and her wearing a t-shirt that says wifey, in the prison background, all of that. Then we're at Portia's, and she is prepping food. Well, I guess her assistant is prepping food. And then two white women come over. They're dating coaches or matchmakers. And she says that being a vegan, Portia says, is making her very horny. And she describes, kind of alludes to vegetable orgies that she thinks about. And she's like, well, Kenya has a man, and Sheree has a man, and Cynthia's divorced, and she already has a man. And, my ex was a good guy, but I want to have a man. And, we're still good friends and support of her and her ex. But she wants someone who's confident, who's supportive, who wants a family. And she says she's down with the swirl. She'll date someone who's not black or brown. She says that white men do ask her out, and then they show some footage of a white guy flirting with her. And she says that love, Portia says that love can be anywhere in anybody. And then, the ladies who are with the matchmaking service are like, well, it's like, we're your friends. That's how we like to do our business. So we're your friends, and we're just connecting you with other friends that we know. And since we're such good girlfriends, give us a tour of your house. So they go around Portia's house, and it's a lot of stuff in there for one person, or I don't know. But she has 2 rooms, one that's decorated kind of sort of for a boy, but it looked like a closet to me. One that's decorated kind of sort of for a girl, but it looked like a closet to me. And then they make a comment about the fact that she has a playscape outside in the backyard for children, but she doesn't have any children, and how that could be intimidating for a man. They say it's too much. It's too much, the matchmakers. Then we see Cynthia. She's meeting up with Peter. And Cynthia's like, Uncle Ben looks steamy enough to boil a whole pot of rice right now. I thought that was funny, Cynthia. I'm liking this year's Cynthia. I'm enjoying her. So we find out that Cynthia is still 25% partner in some business that she and Peter are working on in Atlanta. Restaurant business, bar business, that's what he does. Peter is killing it in Charlotte, and he said he gonna murder them in Atlanta. And he say for a 50-year-old woman, she look about 32. And oh, thank you for noticing, Cynthia. And I follow you on social media, Cynthia says, so I know you and your company are doing well. And he said, I follow you on social media too, but I didn't see your boyfriend. And Cynthia said, do you have a boyfriend? And Cynthia's like, I don't have a boyfriend, but I met somebody. Oh, and so, and then we're at Sheree's place, and Callie is with a group of friends, and Sheree comes in, and we find out that Callie, her daughter, Sheree's daughter, is going to a HBCU, Howard University, HU. And Callie has always been the one black girl among all of the white girls. I guess that's why they showed her with all the white children, all the white young people. Was that her black boyfriend? I don't know but anyway, but Sheree is glad. She wants to go to Howard to know herself. I don't know why in Atlanta she has to always be around white people. I don't really understand the dynamic, but it seemed like there would be plenty of opportunities for her. But anyway, we see Candy at home with her family, and there's a swimming lesson that's jumping off. And that was really nice to see black folks learning to swim from a black woman folk with natural hair. And Candy feels like she's sucking at mommyhood right now, but she's grateful to have a dad in the house this time, unlike with Riley. Then we're at Sheree's, and she's having mommy talk with her 3 children, and she's like, let's just right in. She just jumps right in, I guess. And she's like, the National Coalition of Domestic Violence has asked me to be an ambassador, and the kids are silent. And Cairo is kind of like he bucks his eyes a little bit, like opens them wide, like he's surprised. The way it was edited, and they don't really say anything. And then Sheree is like, well, how did you all feel when you first heard? I know you heard it on the blogs or whatever. And then nobody really says anything. And then the big sister is like, well, I was in shock. And then the little sister is like, well, Dad did try to talk to me. That's what Kaylee says. And then Cairo doesn't say anything. And Sheree is like, well, Cairo. And Cairo is like, I don't know. I'm assuming his daddy has talked to him, so they have he has a perspective on it. And then the sisters, I noticed also that their body language, when the conversation first started, all 3 of the children look equidistant or whatever. But at some point, Callie crossed her leg into her big sister, and she also at one point was leaning into her big sister, and so Cairo was sort of like physically distant from the girls, and I think he might be he might be emotionally distant in terms of how he's processing it, being a boy, that being his father, his father probably having talked to him and given him his perspective, but anyway, so she has the conversation, and the big sister is like, well, Mom, you've always been a superwoman to us, and we love you and support you. And Cairo is like, yeah, we want you to be happy or whatever. And they all have a group family hug. Then we see Candy and Riley. So we got a lot of family stuff going on. They're arriving at iFly. That's a little company or big company where you can, oh, my back. Ooh, my neck. My back, just like that. This little young person that I was in a play with told me, now that's the only version of the song I ever heard. They said that is a very nasty, explicit song. I'm like, what? She just say my He like, no, boo. It's more than my But anyway, my back. So they're at iFly. That's where you can go and it's a simulation of skydiving. So Riley and I are definitely thrill seekers, says Candy. And Riley is like, when can we do more stuff? You're never free, or you cancel at the last minute. So even though it was kind of like, well, is this whole I'm not a good mommy a fake storyline? I guess the teenage girl feel like she could use some more time with her mother. And then I'm so confused over Riley's age. Yeah, because apparently she is in the 10th grade. I'm thinking she's 13, and I'm like, ain't she been 13 forever? Did they say she was 13, or I just thought 13? But anyway, she's in the 10th grade, so let's try to reset this. Riley is in the 10th grade. She about 16, 15, 17 years old. She has, and now that she's, in high school and she about to be driving, she have a lot of work, so she can't be, just going with her mother on tours and stuff like that, because she have her own life. So if her mother want to get with her, her mother have to make appointments and keep them appointments. But she does want to spend time with her mother. So yeah, that was kind of the conversation. And then we see Sheree, Callie, and Cairo leaving to go somewhere. I don't know if they taking Callie to college and then Cairo back to wherever he is. Because she said something about they going to be gone for months. And then we see Portia getting ready for her date. Then we see Cynthia, and she's at her house, and somebody knock on the door and say, well, somebody's in a car. And I'm like, I ain't opening the door for nobody and getting in no car because somebody's in a car. You better tell me you sending a car for me, and who picking me up. I ain't getting in no. But anyway, when she gets in the car, there's a flower from Will, enjoy your ride. So I'm kind of like, okay, I don't want to see you get kidnapped on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. And then when she gets to him, she's like, oh, hi, hugging him on the boat. This is the boat he talked about on the last episode. And she's like, it's just because so, you can do anything you want just because. And she's playing it. Miss Cynthia's playing it. What you talking about is just because mama. Okay, so then we got Candy and Todd joining, and they're having a double date on the boat with Cynthia and Will. And Todd says that he feels weird about being disloyal to Peter. And Candy says, stay woke because there's a lot of fake folks in Atlanta faking it till they make it. And she don't know about Will, And they have some flashback of Peter with the guys and also Candy's husband, Todd. But they kind of talk about Will and not Will, but Peter and the sunglasses and Cynthia and Peter and Peter and Peter and feeling disloyal. And then Will is like, well, he's not here, but I'd love to talk about anything else now that we've got Peter out of the way. And I kind of like that answer. I was like, well, all right, then let's moving right along. And then we move right along into Candy being like, well, sir, are you trying to date my friend for TV time? Because I see you like to date people for TV time. That seemed to be a pastime, a mini profession of yours. She say, Candy says, me and Cynthia have been in the public eye since we were kids, so I'm a little cautious. And, she also, Candy talks about in her interview how, Todd was grilled and everybody gave Todd such a hard time, so she gonna give this guy a hard time. And Miss Cynthia was so funny. She like, well, if it doesn't work out, we'll just break up, Candy. It's not that deep, girl. And I was like, yes. I thought that was funny, but, child is deep into Hayes and the man. Okay, I think that's that. So then we see Portia en route to meet her blind date Patrick. And the matchmaker says that he'll be wearing jeans and a gray shirt. And Portia's like, jeans. And then they do a shot of her hot pink YS Yves Saint Laurent bag. And, she's saying that she had gotten her hair done and her nails are ready. And, so she's not impressed with somebody who's going to show up at a first date with her wearing jeans already. So then we see Cynthia and Candy talking. And Cynthia, they're on the boat still, so they having girl talk over here, and the boys are having boy talk or fella talk over there. And Cynthia, Candy is like, well, don't rush into anything. I know you divorced and you probably want to have sex, or y'all have had sex. And Cynthia is like, we haven't had sex. And Candy is like, well, something has happened here. And Cynthia is like, well, I did have sex with an ex, And I'm like, okay, she just doing her grown woman thing, keeping the edge off so she can have fun with Will and be relaxed and not be no desperado. And then she dealt with somebody that she already know has a relationship. It ain't, she handling her business. But Cynthia says that she is concerned about sex and the sexual chemistry. And she says, Cynthia, now that she's 50 Cent, she wants Fat Joe. And she gives some other rap metaphors, but I didn't catch all of those, or innuendos. And then when the group comes back together, the men and the women rejoin. Cynthia tells Will the gist of the conversation. And I'm like, go Cynthia again. Got her grown woman on. She faking it like, oh, I wasn't supposed to say that we were over there talking about sex and that I was concerned about whether sex with you would be good. But she trying to break the ice and get that conversation out there and let him know that that is a concern of hers. And create an opening for him to bring it up later, or she just putting it out there. And then we see Portia is stressed about her blind date. She is not excited when she sees him. When she gets to the restaurant, she like kind of walks by and then she walks away, and then she goes over and she sits down with him. And shortly after they start talking, she's like, well, my mother is in town and I just told her that I was gonna come here for like a half hour, so she got her exit strategy lined up, and the blind date is like, well, most good looking women have something off, and Portia's like, well, I'm not good looking. And that was kind of an interesting whole little thing. And then he asked her to take shots, and she says she'll take shots. And he's like, okay, well, maybe you'll loosen up. But they do the sake bombs. I guess that's shots, but they do the sake bombs, some alcoholic thing. And then Portia's like, he's nice, but it's exhausting. And I'm like, she don't like him. And then Portia leaves. She like, okay, well, my phone is still buzzing by. So, it looked like she was with him for all of 18, 19 minutes. And then we see Sheree being visited by Jack Daniels, her life coach. And when he came in, I'm kind of like, I'm getting the vibe that he likes her, but maybe he's just like that friendly kind of guy. And then Jack is like, well, you look a little lighter. I was confused too. I'm like, lighter skin? But he meant lighter, like, your spirit is lighter because she done talked to the children. And that's what he says. He meant it figuratively, not literally. And then she tells him that she did talk to the kids, and then she gets a call from Tyrone, so she has to leave to take that call. And she goes and she talks to Tyrone, and she comes back to the appointment, and she tells him that she does have a boyfriend. Am I too old to have a boyfriend? Do people say that? I do have a boyfriend. He is incarcerated. The Jack Daniels is like, who's incarcerated? Incarcerated. My boyfriend. Oh, okay. So what do those hussies think, or gossiping women, or some term he uses for women, like, oh, I bet they hate that, or they dogging you out about that. And she's like, we dated 6 years ago, and he stopped because the feds were reaching out to him and he didn't want to get me involved. And then 2 years ago, after he had been 4 years of no contact, he called her on her birthday and reestablished contact. And Jack Daniel was like, well, you were smiling a lot out there. So a boyfriend, you have a boyfriend. Now I understand the glow. What about the catty women? Oh, that was the term. Is this a fantasy? Like, are you in... Sheree is like a fantasy. Who would fantasize about being with somebody in prison? But he meant, since you can't deal with him on a day-to-day, day in and day out, you can create this fantasy of like, oh, he's great, he's wonderful, he's perfect, he's this, but you don't have to deal with him practically. And he's like, is it a fantasy? Well, what happens when he's out by the end of the year, or after 4 more years? Because he could be out by the end of the year, or it could be 4 more years. And then Sheree is like, oh, I have no doubts. He's my soulmate. I'm taking a chance on love. The other women are going to be going to prison looking for men when they see what me and Tyrone have. So that's basically the end of the episode. Thank you for tuning in. Subscribing, liking, sharing, commenting, all of that other good stuff. I'm Angela again, and the channel is Be Fabulous You. Be you. Be fabulous. Be fabulous you. And we're working on 200 subscribers. So if you're one of the 200, yay. And if not, come on, subscribe. Be you. Be fabulous. Be fabulous you.